Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here. Welcome back to another video for Elden Ring. Again, I am super excited. We are getting ever closer to this game. We dropped a video the other day taking a look at some of the new gameplay, new information. You guys seem to really enjoy that and of course are just as excited. So today I want to follow up because there's a little bit more stuff that I have yet to speak about, more stuff that I hadn't even seen at the time. So today I thought we'd touch on that because we get a few little gameplay snippets of a new area, an area that none of us have had a chance to explore yet. It shows a different sort of visual aesthetic to the world. We get to see some new enemies, some new weapons, basically some pretty cool stuff. There's nothing really in there that is too spoiler heavy, unless of course you just don't want to see anything altogether, in which case maybe don't watch it. And I'm also only going to be using snippets of that because of course GameInformer have been putting up a ton of gameplay, so if you want to check out their full video, which I highly recommend, their coverage has been awesome for Elden Ring. I will link it down below. They have a full breakdown, but I do still want to touch on a few small things, so we'll use a few snippets of those clips in this video. Outside of that, it'll just be my footage from the closed network test. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of some of this new stuff. What are you most excited about? And again, don't forget to keep it locked because we are going to have plenty of Elden Ring coverage as we get closer to launch. But to begin with, the footage that GameInformer shared, of course, is north of Limgrave in a location known as Leonia of the Lakes. It is a very, very cool location. Looks, aesthetically very different to what we got in the closed network test, which of course, lots of green, lots of open areas. This is much more sort of blue, mystical, lots of water, lots of actual mist itself, and this is supposedly the home of the Magic Academy, hence the sort of theme of the area. One of the first things we actually got to look at in the gameplay were these interesting portals, and supposedly there are many of these located around the world. They'll then take you to special locations. What is actually inside these locations is currently a mystery, which honestly, I'm kind of glad to hear. I want to uncover these mysteries myself, but when you do get there, you will notice these sort of mysterious gates, these sort of magic-looking lattice that, of course, blocks the way. I imagine you need to have a select number of items or some kind of prerequisite in order to open them, but supposedly these are sort of divine towers, and there are different towers in different zones, so, if I had to hazard a guess, they're probably going to lead you to some sort of awesome reward. Maybe doing all the towers gives you a certain number of items, which again, later on leads to other unlocks. Honestly, at this stage, I'm just speculating. In fact, let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think you would get from maybe going through and completing all these towers? Not sure how many there are going to be, but I definitely can't wait to explore that. Now, when they go to one of the new zones, we also get a look at some of the creatures, some of the new enemies. Of course, we encountered many of them in our time playing through the closed network test, but this time we have some very different looking enemies. These interesting looking, like alien, weird sort of creatures. I mean, it's probably the best way to describe them. Kind of reminds me of Elvis from Perfect Dark, but they also look kind of cool. They have different weapons. Some of them have this sort of interesting looking magic scythe. They have the ability to use ice magic. They can also do hilarious cartwheels, kind of like the goats from the closed network test. You even have the guys with the big clubs, and they look really, really cool. Of course, they tend to sort of attack in packs from what we can see. It's also worth noting we get a look at some new weapons. The character here is using a spear. We've seen spears before, but they also have a whip and some interesting sort of black smoke magic that seems to act kind of like a smoke bomb, seemingly a way to obscure the enemy's vision so you can then basically get behind them and go for a backstab, almost like resetting their aggro meter, which is quite interesting. I definitely really like the whole sort of feel around this. I mentioned in my previous video the sort of water temple Shadow Link battle feel from Ocarina of Time. I definitely still get that from a lot of the areas in this zone. I'm really liking that. One of those cool ones we saw as they were running through the foggy looking areas. There are these interesting like walking creatures, these sort of colossus, kind of reminds me of the tortoise in God of War, where of course you go to meet Freya, but this time they've got like a bell hanging underneath them, and there's like a big tower structure on the back. Supposedly you can go inside these. Again, they didn't say what you can do inside them, but if I had to hazard a guess, if the closed network test is anything to go by, then typically if you go and find caves, tombs, all those different things to explore, they invariably lead to something worth your time. And given that these look like, they look like they're going to be quite difficult to get to, then I would like to think it's going to reward us quite handsomely. Or I could just be wrong. It could just be like a hella difficult challenge. Either way, keep an eye out for them. Again, they will be roaming the world. Another thing we got to look at are the sort of mystical candles. They seem to summon apparitions. They kind of function in a similar way to Ghost of Tsushima, where like you can interact with some of the animals and they will lead you to locations. Obviously, in Elden Ring, a lot of stuff is left for us to discover. They're not going to hold your hand and guide you to everything, but there are some things where by interacting with these, they summon apparitions and you can then follow those and they'll lead you to locations. Might be a secret cavern, might be something else like that. but they are things that, again, you want to look out for. Another area they then ventured into were these sort of caverns, these like mines, and initially they look quite similar to the mines we've seen before, and then you sort of get into the deeper realms. You see these mining nodes in the wall, which apparently you can actually interact with. You can mine them for materials, and then they go even further inside, and we see this cool blue mystical looking mine. Even the enemies look really cool with their like weird spears they're using to drill. You even sort of see the mining like crystals in their back, so this is definitely a very like visually different looking area. And then outside of that, we saw a little bit more horse traversal. The horse, of course, can be a very useful method for exploring, getting sort of hard to reach areas. So honestly, I can't wait. But for the time being, that's a little rundown on some of the new gameplay we had a chance to see, to sort of check out. Lots of very cool stuff. Honestly, every time we see something new from Elden Ring gets me even more excited. And, you know, to think this is still barely scratching the surface, there is going to be so much stuff for us to discover. So honestly, I'm looking forward to it. If you guys missed the video the other day, by the way, then make sure you check this one out, because of course we took a look at some of the other new information and new gameplay. So if you're excited for Elden Ring, definitely give it a watch.